Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here. Welcome to today's webinar, Defending Against Modern Email Threats. Now, I want to throw on some quick housekeeping here. We want to, have this be as interactive as possible. So, as you're joining us today for our event, please feel free to ask any questions that you have. Throw them into the chat, and we'll be sure to get them answered for you. And we do love your questions, so feel free to throw them in there. And a couple other things is, be sure to stick around to the end. We have a special offer. We do have a special offer from Mail Protector, and we're going to share that in a little bit here. But as we all know, email threats don't politely knock. They slip through the cracks. Spoofing, impersonation, and clever post-delivery tricks. Now, today, we're going to dig into proven strategies that MSPs can use to stop spoofing, encrypt email, and harden your email stack without creating chaos for your team or your end users. Now we're going to go ahead and bring in, we have two guests today, not just one, but two. We've got Cody and Jared Eckel, and it's great. I only had to say their last name once because they both have the same last name, which is pretty cool. Cody and Jared, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Yeah, it's a sunny day here, so.
I'm doing good myself, then.
Good. You can't complain about there being a sunny day. We gotta love it. Being here, mid-September, and we know that fall is setting in. So we'll take the sun in warm weather, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So why don't we jump right in? Let's go ahead and jump into our slide deck here. Again, today's event is defending against modern email threats. It's something that is near and dear to all of our hearts. It's something that is critical. And, let's set the stage. We do know that email is still the number one initial access vector, right?
Yep, 100%. It's one of our taglines for every presentation we do. So it's easy to sell something that's a big problem. So
exactly. We know that tactics have evolved. Business email compromise. We got reply chain hijacking, vendor impersonation. It goes on and on and on. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Cody and Jared, and we're going to jump right into today's content.
Awesome. Yeah. So I am Cody Eckel. I'm the director of support over here at Mail Protector. I run the technical team. Jared is on that team, so it's always nice to work with family and all those. But I do like to keep things conversational. So the slides are going to be scene setter, I'll call it. And then we'll kind of dive in. Me and Jared will be bouncing back and forth. Maybe you'll see us argue a little bit. It'll be a good time. So, but if you throw in anything in chat, I like to toss that in as well. So a little bit more interactive than, us just reading off slides and things like that. So with defending against modern email threats, I think we got to talk about kind of what we used to have to deal with as well as now, and kind of start from there. So I actually like to start talking about kind of where we come from. So I've been in IT about 14 years now, which I'm sure is not even close to most of the people in the chat or anything like that. So I'm still old enough to remember the early 2000s, but not old enough to talk about when you had trucks deliver your computers and things like that. So as far as old landscape and old threats, what we used to have to deal with is spam, malware, and kind of generic phishing are kind of the three categories I like to put everything in. Viruses are mixed in there as well. And it kind of in the early 2000s, if you had malware and virus protection, you were actually checking like 90% of the boxes as far as protecting people's computers or laptops or anything like that. So it was, I don't want to say basic compared to now, but it was very simple. Like you were dealing with people getting bombarded with emails. The strategy for email compromise was send out 10,000 emails. 100 of them will stick on the wall. Those people will click on links, and then I'll have 100 computers that have compromised, or 100 people that I can ransomware, or 100 people where I'm in their account and I can use their account to get other people's information. Today, it's kind of flipped a little bit. We're very good at catching malware and viruses. I think malware and virus engines are like 99.99% effective now. I think I used to say it's like one in a billion emails is what would get through as far as like a virus goes through virus engines. So it like wasn't even a discussion point anymore. But Jared, I don't know. Do you have any examples we both work desktop support. So I don't know if you have any good examples of early in your career.
I mean, there was always like you've won $1 million, like simple stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
there's the infamous "I love you" worm. I think that was like
Oh
early
yeah.
2000s.
Yeah, that was early. Yeah.
Where it was just like, here's a love letter, please read it, and that
Right.
worked
Yeah.
really well, if I recall.
Yeah, people didn't even know they could get compromised. They thought like their computer was their own private room and no one else could get on it. And it was crazy what people would click on. But we're a little bit more educated now. So modern threats, and as far as like email getting through, has become very mature, is what I'll say. So people aren't just sending a million emails and hoping for the best. They're saying, I'm going to target these 5 businesses. I'm going to learn who their CEOs are. I'm going to see if I can get into someone's account at this business. And I know I can ask them for X amount of money because I know how much they're worth. It's a lot more detailed. People have like spreadsheets that go over kind of who they want to compromise, how they're going to compromise them, and all those things. We also have more educated, I'll say, or like more refined types of threats. So like QR codes are probably one of the most recent ones that have started growing. I think the UK just reported that QR code compromises have gone up almost 10 times in the last year, just because it has gained popularity so quickly, and modern email scanning wasn't catching it. We had, I don't want to say, it definitely wasn't the busiest week in my career, but it was a very busy week when QR codes came through, and we were having to deal with, our filter caught some of it, but not all of it. And people were like, how are you going to fix this? And we ended up hopping on meetings with our partners and saying, hey, let's educate your end users. Don't scan QR codes that come through your email. I don't know why you would do that, but we had to educate people to not do that.
Yeah.
So it was end user training. And then eventually the tools caught up. I want to say like 2 to 3 weeks later, they could actually check those links and things like that. Jared, did you have anything crazy happen during the QR code flood?
No, but I remember it well. And it was like, it was kind of an ebb and flow, because at first they were putting it into like the body content in an image, and then afterwards they were putting the QR codes inside of attachments, like a PDF. So yeah, I remember that month.
Yeah, it evolved within a month. It evolved to like 3 different ways the QR codes were delivered. It was so fast. And that's kind of another part of it being modern day. We can use AI tools. We have faster computers. I joke with my uncle that, our phones are supercomputers compared to, the late 90s, early 2000s. People would be like blown away at what my phone can do, let alone like my computer that I can sit at and build myself. So yeah, QR code was a big one. I think we've all, hit the AI drum quite a bit, so we can kind of skim over that one. I think one that I really have been interested in, and one I had to help a partner with 2 weeks ago, was a token session. So that what they'll do, it's called AITM session theft is kind of the term that's used. So what they do is they have you click a link, and then you authorize with your multi-factor authentication to give that website access to Microsoft. And then they hijack the token that Microsoft gives to the website. And then they can use that token to bypass your multi-factor authentication. So by clicking a link and doing multi-factor authentication, nothing's threatening on the website. Nothing's threatening that you clicked on. Everything could be scanned and it's all clean. But all they want is that token that Microsoft hands out. And that's a big reason that Microsoft has added, this was probably like a year and a half ago, they added the numbers. You have to put in like 88 or 59 or something like that for people to get in. But it's still evolved further, and people can bypass that kind of check as well. And also older systems in Microsoft don't force that number. all the time. So if you have an older partner or an older customer, you may want to check that their multi-factor authentication is checking for those numbers, because sometimes they're not. So these modern threats, we're even having to upgrade Microsoft or Google or our current MFA products to kind of keep up with that stuff as well. So anyway, I think we've really hit modern threats and things like that. Yeah.
And I was just going to say, it's such a critical thing because, as email has become just a normal tool that we all use on a daily basis. It still is a high target area. And I'm old enough, and your introduction made me feel extremely old. But I'm old enough to remember when, it was so easy for people to impersonate someone, where you could go there. There were websites out there that, I remember working for a Fortune 500 company where somebody sent an email that looked like it came from the CEO of the company, and sent it to a coworker of mine saying, hey, we need to talk. We got to really talk. There's something serious going on, and we need to have a serious conversation this afternoon. It totally freaked her out. And come to find out, this guy just decided to go to this website, typed in the CEO's email address, typed in the message, and it sent a message that it was impersonating that person. And I'm talking, this is a long time ago. We're talking 20, 25 years ago. And now this is a serious threat. It's a serious threat that is, people see on a regular basis.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's every day now. So yeah. No, that's I think everyone has kind of a story or something that happened one day or anything like that. So I do want to bring up, I like statistics because they kind of prove what we're talking about here. The FBI shows that business email compromise is the 7th most reported crime. When I think of the FBI and reported crime, I think of like bank robberies or like, hijacking, and like hijacking anything. I'm thinking about like movies and guns going off, and the FBI gets involved and they're trying to track down these spies. But the 7th most reported crime is business email compromise, which seems kind of lame, but it's how people are making money. So they're going to do it as long as it's out there. And then this one I love because it kind of shows how important user training and things like that are, on top of having a good set of tools, is that 74% of breaches involve human error. Someone's providing a password, someone's putting an MFA where they shouldn't, someone's logging on to websites they shouldn't. People are giving out information on social media that allow people to access their computers with various questions and things like that. So there's just tons of ways that people can get information, or just enough information to gain access and then potentially compromise or get money from that. Along that thread, I do want to ask if anyone wants to put in kind of their most creative phishing attempt that they've seen as an MSP or as an IT provider. Your grandma could have clicked on the wrong thing, or a specific email client could have a vulnerability. Fun stuff can happen with phishing attempts. I'll mention mine, and then I'll, maybe Dan and Jared have one as well. But I would say by far the one that kind of stands out for me is we had a partner send an email and ask us how this email got through Mail Protector, because it had a bad link, the English was a little off, and things like that. And when we investigated the issue, it actually never passed through Mail Protector. The person had delivered it directly to Microsoft 365, and that person didn't have an inbound connector set up, so it was able to completely bypass Mail Protector by delivering direct. The email itself was the head accountant's CEO asking the accountant to wire him money to buy a helicopter, because the CEO was in Haiti and there were earthquakes in Haiti at the time. So there were actual earthquakes happening, and the CEO was actually in Haiti during those earthquakes. So the person who compromised their environment knew where the CEO was, knew how much they could ask for, and knew exactly who to reach out to, who was the accountant, which takes a ton of research. The accountant wired the bad actor over $1 million to buy a helicopter. And the CEO got back to the airport and checked, the bank accounts and all that, and was like, "Where did all this money go?" And the head accountant was like, "Well, I sent it to you to get you out of Haiti." And that's when the whole investigation started. So that's I thought it just shows how, again, sophisticated things have kind of gotten to how much information needs to be gained. But Jared or Dan, do you have anything you want to throw in?
Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead, Jared. Go ahead, Jared.
I had one in the past 6 months or so that was a compromised frequent sender that sent to a recipient, and they had copied the body content of like a proof point encryption email, but the view document link was broken, and then there was a link beneath that it was like a having trouble accessing this document type of hyperlink that led to a Freshdesk KB article that was also created by the bad actor. But in the KB article had the malicious link in it. But I thought it was honestly kind of impressive. I was like, wow, he not only compromised the account, but he set up a trial account with Freshdesk, branded it
Right.
as the company he's masquerading as. So I thought that one was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's crazy. So many layers. Dan, what did you got? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we, quite a few years ago, I remember in my MSP, we had a client that reached out to us. And what ended up happening is it's a husband and wife team that own a CPA firm. They happen to be out of town, down in another state on vacation. And email came into one of their employees, and it looked like it was coming from the owner. They purchased the domain name, a similar domain name with the letter L in front of it, and and basically said, "Hey, so and so, looks like it's coming from the owner. I need you to wire $35,000 over to this account." And and then that employee replied back saying, "Hey, I don't have access to the bank account, but we could cut a check." And then the supposed owner said, "Oh, what was I thinking? Yeah, go ahead and cut a check." And then they realized that the checks were in the owner's wife's office, locked up. But they said we could do a payroll check. So, long story short, here, this whole conversation going back and forth, appearing as if it's from the owner. The bad actor got sloppy. They did end up cutting a check, a payroll check. Overnighted it to another state, but as this bad actor got sloppy and forgot to eliminate some of the key people on the email thread, they became wise to it. And so, those kind of things. Like you said, a lot of sophistication, a lot of time that goes into architecting that.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's become worth it to them because they can compromise, even like smaller, medium-sized businesses have enough money to make it worth it. If you compromise 2 small businesses in a year, that could be
Right.
tens of thousands of dollars. And, that's not a bad paycheck. So I can understand why things have gotten more sophisticated because the money values have gone up so quickly as well. So with that, this kind of leads us into kind of why Microsoft Defender isn't enough. And my example of delivering around Mail Protector and things like that directly to Microsoft didn't catch bad English. Microsoft didn't catch bad links. They are things that when we ran the email back through Mail Protector, it did catch. We also ran it through other filters as well, and they were able to catch it as well. So it's not even just Mail Protector that's adding on to Microsoft, but there's tons of other products and things like that that can be enhanced by being added on top of Microsoft. Jared, I think you've probably had these discussions with partners as well, but a hurdle we actually have to get over for some of our partners to explain to their customers is, why they need Mail Protector, why they need some other email filter in front, or there's many other products, but for now we'll stay on the email chain. What do you kind of say to partners when they're like, hey, my customer says they got Microsoft Defender, they don't need you guys?
In my opinion, some people can have that stance, but the administration of Microsoft, in my opinion, can be a steep never-ending learning curve. So, in my opinion, I find it frustrating to administrate, which in turn can lead to mistakes or misconfigurations. I also think there's just not a lot of granular control where, in situations where you might need it, I think like outbound protection, they do have rate limiting available, but there's not really granular controls around that. So I think I usually go into a few things like that around just lack of granularity or confusion, honestly. So
yeah, definitely. I think administrative overhead's also a great one. Microsoft is this maze of 100 different admin consoles and various things that all influence the emails that go through. The funny one we found the other day was Microsoft adds a small tagline on top to say that they did their phishing check. Well, what that does is that breaks DKIM. So that was causing failures later on when DKIM was checked because Microsoft had edited the email, which breaks that security protocol. So we had to start telling partners to shut that off. So even like default policies for Microsoft can cause deliverability problems. Additionally, Jared, the outbound granularity functions, I agree 100%. Microsoft really only rate limits. And how many emails have people gotten where someone's Microsoft account got compromised, blasted out 3,000 emails, they got rate limited, but those 3,000 emails went out with no issues whatsoever. And I've gotten ones that have had payloads in them, viruses, malware, things like that, and filters catch them. Even like desktop applications will catch them when you try to click them and things like that. But Microsoft's outbound security just completely ignored the fact that this person just sent out a bunch of viruses. That's, in my opinion, baseline. Like, they should be stopping bad stuff from getting out, and Microsoft really doesn't. Additionally, there are a lot of ways to kind of manipulate Microsoft, and Microsoft's also one of those platforms that everyone's watching. So the second a compromise comes out, everyone's aware of it and everyone tries to abuse that. Me and Jared fielded, I want to say it was like 20 to 30 tickets related to the direct send compromise with Microsoft. And it's one I really want to mention because it affected a lot of people. Basically, Microsoft, by default, if you didn't create your tenant within the last 6 months, has direct send turned on. And what this is it's a open protocol feature that allows someone to send mail as someone else in your tenant. So, for example, someone could send email as Cody Eckel from my tenant using direct send. Well, they left that protocol completely open. So people can access that, and it has a standard addressing. So people can just follow the standard addressing, use the direct send feature, and send email as me to other people inside my company. This is obviously a huge vulnerability. You can send anything through there, and Microsoft really isn't checking it because it's already past the front gates, so to say. So we had a lot of partners sending tickets like, hey, how did this email even get to this person? And we were like, it didn't pass through Mail Protector, and it's not showing up in Microsoft's logs. We have no idea. It's acting like it was sent by Microsoft's system. So we had to kind of quickly identify that and tell people to basically turn off direct send. The other really cool part is API solutions actually did prevent this. So Mail Protector has Shield, which is a email gateway and an API solution. And Shield was actually catching people using direct send because it's still email getting processed. So even though Microsoft didn't catch it, API security tools did. So that was a huge win for kind of, third-party email security tools. But people who didn't have those or didn't have their tenants configured correctly to use those tools, ended up having to pull things out of mailboxes. Some compromises did happen and things like that. So Microsoft, having something else besides just Microsoft is critically important, especially when new stuff comes out every day. You want more than one set of eyes on things. So
yeah. I'll also add, for one frustration I have with their filtering is there's not really a lot of feedback sometimes on why things were quarantined. Like all you get is a number that's 1 through 9. So if your client asks, say, why was this email quarantined? Microsoft gave it a 9. So.
Yeah, it's feedback is really bad. And that's what we end up telling partners. We don't administrate Microsoft, but obviously we work with it very closely because we have to. It's a big part of email. And yeah, we're just like, yeah, it's a 9. If you want to stop that, this is the policy that triggered, but it's going to turn off all virus filtering. And they're like, well, I don't want to turn off all virus filtering. And you're like, well, then you're going to have to keep releasing these from quarantine until Microsoft figures it out. Yeah, so those situations can be avoided a lot of the time as well, because then you could lean on your third-party products and say, hey, for these emails, Microsoft, please mark these as a spam confidence level of 0 or 1, or sorry, -1, and let my email filter decide if they want them or not. So you can get pretty specific with Microsoft, but not when it comes to policies, which is kind of funny. Anyway, so that's there's a few reasons Microsoft's not enough. I do like to give Microsoft a little bit of love, I guess, in this situation. It's not all terrible. They do have Exchange Online Protection, which does a really good job at catching, I'll say, those legacy threats. So what we had talked about with the old landscape, it's good at preventing spam, putting it in junk. It's very good at catching viruses and malware, typically coming from the internet to your users. And then also they are keeping up with multi-factor authentication pretty heavily. So like when there is an MFA compromise, Microsoft is pretty fast to actually resolve those. I've seen like less than 24 hours they're fixing MFA compromises. So they are pretty quick on the things that they want to focus on. I will say, those are probably the fastest they fix things because those are things that could damage Microsoft itself. So it's kind of a catch-22. Microsoft is there to protect itself, and you're getting the benefit of that. But we do get the benefit, so I don't want to completely ignore that.
Yeah, and I'd like to just throw in that when you take a look at the fact that email is the number one attack vector, it's the number one way of how bad actors are getting in. Why wouldn't you want multiple layers to protect your clients? Our clients are counting on us to give them the best possible solutions. And, sure, you have Defender, but if you're looking for a best of breed solution to be able to put on top of that and give the client the security that they need in an area that is, as we know, the number one way that those bad actors get in, it really shouldn't be a question. I'm just throwing my 2 cents in there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think I always say you wouldn't just install, Malwarebytes on a computer and call it a day. You put a firewall in front. You maybe put smart switches in. You put IDS, IPS devices in if it's a bigger company. It's not just like one and done. And I think that's how people treat email a lot, because we have this discussion internally a lot. If email's disrupted, business can go down. So people are really scared to mess with it. But that's why it's the number one attack vector, is because people are scared to mess with it. So they let everything in. So why not go through the front door, But yeah, it's a really great point, Dan, for sure. Cool. So now that we've kind of hit on why Microsoft isn't enough, we want to talk about kind of the modern stack and kind of where things sit and how you can protect your email. In general, there's 2 different boats. There's the email gateway, and then there's the API. Jared, do you want to kind of explain how an email gateway works, since that's kind of our wheelhouse here at Mail Protector?
Yeah. So an email gateway filter, you'll end up changing the MX records to your gateway where all mail should go to first, be scanned, either quarantined, and then if it's all good, delivered to your mail host. So it's more of a protect at the perimeter type of solution. Once the emails have been handed off to the mail host, the gateway's pretty much out of the picture. But there's definitely some pros and cons of gateway solutions. I'd say one of the biggest pros that comes to mind for me is just the visibility of having a system in front of Microsoft, or if you're on Google or any other mail host, because like let's say you get a call from an end user saying, hey, this person's getting a bounce back when they try sending to me. Microsoft isn't going to record that bounce, but your gateway in front of your mail host will, since that's one handing off mail. So definitely a lot of pros to having something in front of Microsoft, touching emails before that gets into your environment.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, visibility is huge. Gateways have kind of been the workhorse of the email scanning world for a long time. They're very difficult to set up because it's effectively an entirely new server that has to pass things through without disrupting email. So usually you see them in like enterprise situations, or at least before, the gateway solutions came out, like Barracuda, Proofpoint, Mimecast, Mail Protector is a gateway solution as well. There's a ton of big ones out there now, but this has been kind of the bread and butter, because I think the biggest pro is that it doesn't reach your environment before it's stopped. So the other solution that we have are API solutions. Sorry, one second, my slides aren't changing. But the other solution we have are API solutions, and kind of how they function is the email will reach your system, and then the API solution will take a look at those emails. Whereas in the gateway situation, it's taking a look at them in transit. So it's seeing them before they reach your environment, which hopefully is a huge boon, because, we can stop viruses, malware, and things like that before it ever gets to you. Let me see. There we go. All right, sweet. So API solution is kind of the other boat that things fall in today. The main reason this is a discussion is because within the last probably I want to say 3 to 5 years, Google, Microsoft, and other large platforms have matured their APIs to the point where solutions like Mail Protector Shield, or Avanon's another big one, Gradient. There's a host of API solutions that have cropped up in the last 2 to 3 years. The APIs have matured so much at Microsoft and Google that you can get your hands on everything within there using the API. So how an API solution works is it reaches your user's inbox typically, and then that email is scanned while it's in the inbox, and it's pulled out, and then it's redistributed back in if it is safe. So there are obviously tons of pros to this as well as cons, just like with the gateway. So a big pro is it's looking at that email at rest. And sometimes things don't detonate until they're sitting in the inbox. So it can actually find compromises that a gateway wouldn't, because you can have a kind of an inert link that doesn't activate until an hour after, or something along those lines. And an API solution will catch those kinds of things. Additionally, it's able to look at kind of user interactions a lot more. So for example, if a user always puts something into junk, the API can learn from that information, whereas the gateway is never going to learn from that because it doesn't actually see the mailbox. So there's a lot of information that can be gained by viewing the user's inbox. I think the biggest con is the email hits the inbox. And depending on Microsoft, it can be completely out of your API solution's control. If the email hits the inbox, it can sit there for 45 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, just because Microsoft's API isn't responding, or there's been so many API requests in a short period of time that Microsoft can kind of do a soft lock where it says, hey, wait 30 seconds. Hey, wait 30 seconds. And things like that. So API solutions can be slowed down by just kind of how Google or Microsoft's API works. So an email can be definitely clicked on if it's in the mailbox for even a minute or two. So that's the kind of the biggest con that I see as far as APIs go. Jared, any other kind of cons you can think of as far as API solutions go, or pros? I'm happy to talk happily about it.
I just to add on to your last point about emails hitting the mailbox first. I know we had that stat on one of our decks for a while. It was like the average amount of time before a phishing email's interacted with, and it was like under 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So that stat and that behavior combined, that's a big con to me. I'd say one of the pros is definitely the context. You are at the mailbox level, so you can pick up things like frequent senders. Yeah, I'd say you touched on it pretty well.
Sweet. Yeah.
So Cody,
yeah.
I was just going to ask, so that inert link that you were mentioning, so in transit, that link that's in that email looks benign. However, as it hits the mailbox, it's in the inbox. It could be an hour or 2, 3 hours later where it actually becomes a live link that could be a threat. Is that?
Yeah. So what you do is you prep a link. So what you do is you create a website, make a link for it, delete the website.
Yeah.
And then you have the website backed up. And then you send the link that is going to be real, and then you restore the website an hour or two later. And then that website's just full of bad links, but none of them were checked by the gateway because the website didn't exist at the time it passed.
Gotcha. Yep.
So, yeah, not to teach everyone how to do bad things, but that's you can definitely do that. So, yeah, so there's interesting stuff like that happening. We have had the battle at Mail Protector about, hey, you guys have a gateway, which is called Cloud Filter, for 20 plus years. Why have you guys chosen gateway? And then all the API solutions came out and we're like, hey, this is why, gateways are terrible. And we're like, well, technically these things are kind of wrong and blah, blah, blah. But there were pros to APIs. So to cut my rambling off, Mail Protector came out with a product called Shield, which is a gateway and an API, because we agreed there's pros to gateways and there's pros to APIs.
Sure.
So
you got the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So the idea is best of both worlds. And even if you don't want to use something like Shield, because it's a fairly unique product, you can have a gateway solution like, I'll say, Barracuda, Proofpoint, kind of the big guys, and an API solution in place. And they typically play very well together. So this is when we're talking about that layering and how to protect Microsoft the best you can. I would say this is kind of like having a firewall and something installed on your desktop that's going to catch viruses. Your firewall is going to catch a lot, but your desktop's going to catch more because it can have more processing power and see things at rest. So it's kind of the exact same idea. The gateway is kind of your firewall, and the API is kind of all the applications on your desktop. So as you have both protecting people's computers, I would once again typically recommend having both a gateway and an API solution. With that, if we could throw up another poll, how's your system protected? Gateway, API, or I don't know, or both. You could have both as well. So any combination. I will say when we did this poll initially, about 30% had gateway solutions. I think it was like 15% were API. 20% didn't know if they had an API or a gateway solution. And then the rest were kind of a combination of gateway, API. They had two products in place. So the spread's pretty good. It's almost even, in my opinion, which is kind of interesting to see. But that's kind of why we do these educational webinars and things like that, because there's pros and cons to both. You can obviously mitigate them by having both in place, but it's really important to know kind of what you do have in place. So I always, it kind of makes people think about it again. So
would you say it's fair that, when you take a look at where, disasters do strike organizations, that, essentially, mail has gotten forgotten, emails been forgotten, and, there's this lack of understanding that, again, let's go back to that stat. Email is, business email compromise is the number one attack vector. And, there's just, it's it's just forgotten about. And so when you truly understand, the true risk of email, and needing to put in these layers, that's truly the only way to protect your clients.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you actually look at the stats, and most email vendors are throwing them up as well, it shows and things like that. It's kind of a no-brainer that this should be a really big focus of security, because it's, again, the number
Right.
one way people get compromised. So,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you tackle the number one way? So I think I came
Yeah.
from a large enterprise environment called SecureWorks. And I'll be honest, I didn't learn about email security until I joined Mail Protector. I was in the firewall. I was in like the hardware business, basically. So we were working on that kind of
Sure.
stuff. And then I came over to Mail Protector. I'm like, wow, this is completely missing from a ton of enterprise companies. And it's the number one attack vector. My mind was like blown. And I'm like, I have to learn about this. So now I've become kind of an email security specialist, but I think it's really important to kind of have this niche covered. So, yeah, it's just kind of interesting how often it does get forgotten, even at like larger companies like banks and accounting firms and everything like that. So,
And when we sign, when we set out to bring on new clients, we are selling that we've got your back, and there should be, no stone left unturned, right? I mean, we need to make sure that we've covered all of our bases, and clearly this is one of those. So, but yeah, let's jump into hardening the foundation.
Yeah, definitely 100%. So hardening the foundation, I kind of want to talk about, we've explained why this is important now, so what do you do? That's always, if you cut to any part of the webinar, this is usually where I'll cut. So what do you guys actually need me to do? So there are some clear ways to do this. Microsoft and Google and all of them, they provide, I'll talk about kind of the outbound and then toss it back and forth for the other pieces, but they provide things like archiving, email encryption, other solutions that you can kind of tack on to their product. Typically, these things are more expensive than if you go with like a third party, because the third party is specializing and they're trying to beat out the pricing for those bigger products. But as far as like outbound goes, I think we've all probably used Microsoft's encryption. It's really easy to use as far as like sending Microsoft to Microsoft. But then the second you leave Microsoft's environment, it becomes difficult. People have to create Microsoft accounts, or they need to log into their Microsoft account, or it becomes kind of cumbersome to actually access that email. So a lot of these third-party encryption platforms and things like that are something I would recommend looking into, because that's a piece, encrypting sensitive information going out, super important. I think we've all heard about man-in-the-middle attacks. They've been around, again, longer than I've been in IT, and now we have the new types of attacks that are stealing, the AITM attacks that are taking tokens and things like that. So that are being delivered via email. So encrypting email is obviously extremely important, so people can't steal that information when they actually get it. And there's a lot of really great products. Bracket is Mail Protector's product, that kind of help with these situations. As far as the rest of the outbound stuff, this is free things you can do today. Jared, we talk about SPF deacon and DMARC a lot, so I'll toss this over to you. Jared actually does more ticket work than me today, so he'll probably have more to say.
Yeah. Just starting with SPF. I mean, that's really your baseline. Like if you're setting up a domain after your MX record, that should really be the second thing you set up. I think a lot of people treat SPF or think of it as this can only affect my outbound deliverability. And I'd say domains with misconfigured SPF records, I see get some pretty bad spam campaigns or impersonation attempts inbound to themselves. Similar to Dan's story earlier, you send an email as like a company owner, someone internal. Your SPF record is what's gonna stop those impersonations. So I just like to point out, like SPF is not just your outbound deliverability. It is also going to affect how your third-party filter or Microsoft view impersonation attempts on your domain or your client domains. So very important to have in place.
Yeah.
And DKIM as well, I'd say DKIM, set it up anywhere you can. It is another verification that your email was not modified in transit. I think DKIM ties a lot more into DMARC when it comes to domain alignment. So like if a sender from address differ on an email, SPF is going to pass because the sending domain is different from the from, and that doesn't really validate that the email in the from address or the from address is validated. The DKIM signature being from the from domain is what validates those emails and keeps DMARC intact. So that felt like kind of a ramble, but
it's all good. Yeah, I like analogies. So at SPF record, what that's going to do in general is you're going to tell the internet who you trust to send mail for you. So when someone spins up a server and acts like they're you, it doesn't work. So that one's pretty simple, easy to set up. DKIM, my favorite analogy is it's a signature on the email. So you're signing the email and then people are checking your signature against it. So for example, if Abraham Lincoln signed his hat and then someone all of a sudden brought that hat out of storage and was like, hey, Abraham Lincoln signed my hat, they wouldn't just trust that person. They would then check all the signatures Abraham Lincoln's ever signed and then compare that to the signature on his hat. And then if the hat's good, they're going to trust it and you can sell it for millions of dollars. If it's not, they say it's fake and it's just a hat. So that's exactly what DKIM's doing. It's saying, hey, your email's worth $1 million. We're going to deliver it. Or that's a fake signature. We're going to, trash that. And then DMARC is the combination of both of these, but it's validating spoofing. So this helps heavily with spoofing. And again, Jared hit the exact point. This is like your email is going to deliver more effectively, but then people can't pretend they are you as well. So these 3 protocols, totally free to set up. Anybody with their own domain can configure these, and they increase your security tenfold if you just set these up correctly.
So I want to ask you guys, once we understand DKIM and DMARC aren't rap stars, once we've identified that, we get a little laughter there, right? Come on. But why is this such an overlooked area? Why is this such a big gap from a security perspective? Any thoughts on that?
I think really you can set up a domain, get to the point of sending out email, and it works.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people kind of get to that point, or maybe the client sets it up, or you acquired a client set up this way. So I think it's just set and forgotten a lot of times. And until something breaks, not a lot of people look at it unless you know to set it up and look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jared's spot on.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't change anything about what he said. You can hit next, and your domain works, but your SPF could be completely broken. So it's yeah. It's just really easy to overlook. And I think another part I'll say, I've taken a few security tests. I don't think I've ever seen these mentioned in a lot of them. So there's bigger fish that I think education attempts to fry, and these end up getting kind of shuffled to the bottom. So.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
Yeah. Cool. So, to kind of move forward, the SPF DKIM DMARC super important. I want to mention at Mail Protector, we do, tens of thousands of tickets per year. Almost 14% of the tickets year to date, so from January this year to September, have been related to SPF problems. Whether they have it misconfigured, someone sending them email where it's broken and they need us to help identify it. The we have entire documents at Mail Protector just going over all the combinations of SPF issues that can occur. So this is something that MSPs, who are the only people we partner with, we only partner with technical people, don't fully understand, don't know how to configure, or when it breaks, don't know how to fix it. And I think it's really important, and this is why we bring it up as kind of the number one way to improve your email security, because even IT professionals are, sometimes falling short as far as their understanding of it. So through no fault of their own, as I've said, there are usually bigger fish to fry, like a tornado hit your customer or something, and you got to rebuild everything. Me and Jared both worked at an MSP for a while, and did we ever talk about SPF DKIM and DMARC at the MSP we worked at, Jared?
I don't think so, honestly.
I don't think so. Yeah, we were busy fixing viruses and people getting ransomware, and yeah, there's like I said, always bigger fish to fry. So this is great preventative. So it's like taking your blood pressure medication. You don't want to have the heart attack. You want to prevent it.
Right.
So, yeah. Cool. So I do like to leave, like I said, I like it to be conversational. We got about 5-10 minutes here for any Q&A. If anyone has any questions, me and Jared kind of specialize in email security. Dan does everything else. So I'm sure with our team here, we can tackle whatever you got. If there are any questions, I'll leave a few minutes to let chat kind of throw what they need to in. And then I will say, while we're waiting for chat,
questions.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and just kind of throw something out there. So Radar is Mail Protector's email vulnerability scanning. So basically what it does is it scans an email and tells you everything that we can potentially find to compromise. And it's completely free. So if you go and check out Radar with Mail Protector, you simply put in your email, it sends you an email, you reply to that email, and then it gives you a report to check your inbound and outbound email. We don't use this for marketing or sales. So if you use this, we don't get your information. It gets deleted right away. So just so you know, we're not going to reach out to you if you scan this. We wanted this to purely be a tool that benefited the community. And we didn't want it to be people to be deterred at all from using it. So it gives you a score based on the United States credit score system. So if you think it's a good enough credit score to buy a house, then maybe you're feeling good about it. Obviously, if you use Mail Protector systems or other gateway solutions and things like that, you're going to get better scores. It's going to let you know if your SPF or DKIM or DMARC are misconfigured. It's going to tell you if we know your location based on the email you sent and fun stuff like that. So it's a pretty cool tool. Since we're waiting on more questions, I will throw in another bit. It's also great for you to market. At Mail Protector, we allow our partners to brand it. So it would say your MSP's name at the top, and then it would say, Radar brought to you by, and then your MSP. But even if you don't use Mail Protector, you can go to a prospect, scan their email, and be like, hey, these are the 6 problems I found with your email just by you sending me an email. And I can fix all these. And it's just with 1 or 2 products. It's going to cost you X amount per month. I'd love to give you, a quote on this so we can hopefully fix your security problems, because your email's pretty open right now. So my dad runs an MSP, and he uses this fairly frequently, where he'll go in, have them scan it, and then tell them all their problems in a few seconds just from an email going back and forth. So super useful for a myriad of reasons. So I don't see any questions. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I think one sign of a great presentation is you've answered all the questions. So high five to Jared and Cody for that. I do want to, as we're wrapping up here, you guys have a special offer available to our audience, and that is on your Mail Protector Shield product. You guys are offering 1 month free, and so in order to take advantage of that, if you go to the everythingmsp.com website, go to resources, and then under resources, go to vendor deals. You'll find Mail Protector and the 1 month free of Shield. With that being said, can you guys give a little bit of background about the Shield product? I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but if you could throw that out, a little bit more information about Shield, that would be great.
Yeah, Jared,
Yeah,
go ahead.
it's a MX, it's a SCG and API mail filter, so you are getting the best of both worlds. It is also a zero trust solution. One of the issues we saw a lot with our legacy filter was, things like allow rules, letting through emails from compromised contacts or generic accounts. Shield does really enforce a zero trust methodology so that, if an email comes in from a trusted sender and we're seeing, different bad sending behavior than why you originally allowed it through, that would still get stopped. So we've really taken a lot of what we learned from our cloud filter products and built upon that with both the SEG and API infrastructure. So it's a very, very powerful product.
Definitely, yeah. I like
Awesome.
to throw in one thing real fast. The Shield product, what's nice about email is we have the history of your email in your inbox, and that API portion gets to connect to that. So a big hurdle with zero trust is it takes months and months to figure out what you want. Whereas with email, we can just learn from what you've put in your mailbox for the last 2-3 years. So even from day one, it's going to feel really good. We usually say about a week or two, it feels fantastic. I went from getting 30 or 40 emails a day that I didn't want to getting the 2 or 3 that I actually wanted to read. And that's because Shield built me a profile for my personal mailbox to read and see what I wanted to actually interact with. And now I just get those emails that I want to interact with or like emails. So super, super cool. Yeah, we use Shield internally as well. So it's been extremely useful. So.
That's huge. And when we go and work with the existing clients as well as looking at prospects, when we talk about business outcome, I think this is a great way that we can focus on business outcome, giving them time back, right? Because you take a look at that inbox, it can be overwhelming. I like to view an inbox as a to-do list. And if that to-do list is inundated with, nonsense, things that, aren't going to keep me productive and busy, that's just going to slow me down, hold me back. And offering the ability to give them back time and being able to focus on, what truly is important in that inbox, I think is great. So I did throw, on the ticker, mailprotector.com. You can definitely check them out at mailprotector.com, as well as take advantage of the Shield offer. When you go to everythingmsp.com, go to resources, go to vendor deals, and you will find Mail Protector there. With that being said, Cody and Jared, I want to thank you both so much for your time, your knowledge. Greatly appreciate it. Cody, a final piece of advice you want to share to our audience before we sign off?
Get some email security. Mail Protector is about helping the community. It's not about just selling our product. So even if it's not us, get something in front of your users to protect them, because it's going to help save you time and money in the long run. So.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to our audience. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.